The 2019 annual conference in Newcastle and Gateshead is really looking at how children and young people can access the arts, and that feels like an incredibly pertinent topic to be exploring in Engage's 30th year. And City of Dreams seems the perfect place to be doing this. It's an extraordinarily inspiring 10-year programme which will give children and young people across both Gateshead and Newcastle access to arts and culture.
Young people's cultural entitlement is an enormous topic, and so I knew I couldn't cover everything. I picked 4 aspects that would help shape our discussion over the next couple of days. So we'll be thinking about who we mean when we use the term young people and what their engagement with culture is already, what the impact of policy and partnership is on children and young people's access to the arts, how we can help young people overcome barriers to accessing the arts, and also support those who want to pursue a training or career path in the cultural sector.
I encourage children to work in the arts because the memories that I have of the arts and culture that I experienced as a child have absolutely stayed with me. You need to keep the young people in mind in all the things that you do and be their champion in the project.
City of Dreams is not just about participation and engagement of young people. It's been about trying to set an agenda for a whole city. You hear that phrase health inequality a lot. We should talk about culture inequality, I think, on the same kind of level. This city is fundamentally, that you're sitting in, unequal. 33% of the kids that grow up here grow up in poverty. In some wards it's as many as 55.
The thing that I wanted to speak a bit about that Enkish mentioned was the Nurturing Talent Fund, which is our youth funding panel. So we get young people from across Scotland applying to us. They do the application process themselves, they come up with projects themselves, and then we as young people read them and decide who gets the funding. So it's by young people, for young people. And something I just wanted to comment on before we move on to Sophia is I've heard a lot about the future, but what about now?
It's really difficult being a young person right now, and it's so scary to think about all the lost opportunities and lack of unity that is coming in a lot of discourses.
What do you want to see from organisations like NIAG, like youth organisations, from young people? What do you want from us? What do you want to know?
How can we bring young people's culture into cultural organisations?
There have been some amazing panels and keynotes over the last 2 days at Engage Conference. It's been an incredible privilege listening to those and hearing the debate which has come out of them. And one real highlight for me was the discussion which was chaired by MEP Julie Ward, which looked at policy and practice across the UK.
It's not about passing exams, this is about education for life. And the really exciting thing here is embedding creativity and learning for sustainability within curriculum design. And that's really important because it actually helps bring back the importance of creativity across learning, and it brings it back to the forefront of people's minds.
And if our young people are going to survive and thrive in today's society, they will need to be resourceful, adaptive, flexible, they'll need to be creative.
Access to arts and culture is a right for children, but we know that it's not an equal right at the moment, that there is not equal access. That may be down to geography, it could be down to economic or social circumstance, but it's not a level playing field at the moment, and that isn't good enough.
But how did you find your way into creativity?
Right, so for me there was one youth project which was called Chat Trust. And that was just kind of open to anyone who was in the area to kind of get like free studio time and kind of just have a place to hang out. So before then I was usually on the streets on a Friday and Saturday night, and it was one of my friends who said, you know, they have a free studio, you don't have to pay, why don't you just come along and see what it's like? And I think being in that youth project was the first time someone looked at me and said, you know, instead of kind of doing what you're doing now, why don't you put your energy and pain into music? I remember being the kid in the shadows. Can you imagine? Now when they see me, they say that I'm the one to make it happen. I was going to move to London, but they told me hold it down. If they walk with me, then I'm a legend in my town, but I don't care about the crown. I just want to be an inspiration to tell everyone in this room, if you want it, you can make it. You don't need to fake it. All you need to be is yourselves, because when you follow trends, they soon change and you get shelved. I've been rolling through the city like I don't need no help. All I need is my family, friends, fans, and myself. And I know what they mean when they say the sky is the limit. All you need to do is go after your dream.
It was great to hear the young people speaking from Scotland, Wales and England, and also have really enjoyed breakouts with Ian Wheeldon from Newcastle University looking at the Cultural Peeps podcast, and Jack Brown exploring whether the space that you work in limits creativity.
Okay, so this is that moment. This is the moment of creative freedom that you remembered, okay? And I want you to think about this moment as something that you are allowing to happen or you see happen in your workplace or the people you work with. And I want you to think about how you can visualise the stuff that happens around this moment of creative freedom. In that actual moment where there's total freedom and they're working like an artist and they can do what they want to do.
This year's conference has been exploring how we as cultural organisations, and I'm speaking from that perspective, how we can explore putting children and young people in the start of our decision making.
A massive welcome from me to the northeast of England, an area of the country with a particular regional identity, an area with some significant social, educational, financial challenges, but most importantly, an area where culture is alive.
And it started to become clear to me that it was no longer just about co-producing, while that was all that was written in my job description. And I started to think about the different stages that we look at when we are working with young people or working with communities in general. And I came up with the 4 different ways that happens. I think at first we engage, and by that would be me saying to the young people, come, listen to these stories that we have, let's tell them. And then after that, the phase is participation, and that's come listen to these stories, but hey, tell me some of your stories as well. And the third one, which is co-production, which I think lots of people are trying to do, some well, some not so well, is what story should we tell? Let's decide that together, and then let's tell them. And there's a 4th stage. There's no buzzword for that at the moment. For me, it's about power and ownership lying with young people and lying with the community. And with that, that's us not going to them. That's them coming to us, or us reaching out but going beyond the obvious, and them saying, these are the stories I want to tell, this is how I want to tell them, and I want you to come listen to them in my space.
The Blueprint Collective has been for us and led by us. We've been lucky to be trusted with coming up with ideas and leading our own projects. We are the 79,000 young people of the Borough of Cultures. We are the pulse that beats through Brent. We want the unheard voices to be heard. We are their voice. We want to elevate young people. We are their opportunities. We want to inspire young people. We are their role models. You are welcome to our homes and to our streets. You will be immersed in our cultures, past, present and future. We represent, design and say it how it is. We are young. We are leaders. We are making the future in a new way. We are the Blueprint.
Arts Council England data demonstrates that cultural education is not currently equitable. We know that some children, particularly those from lower income households or with special educational needs and disabilities, are underserved and less likely to participate in cultural activities than their non-disabled peers. This is not only a ticking time bomb, but it's also grossly unfair. I want to challenge the cultural sector to lead beyond the requirements of the Equality Act, to go beyond reasonable adjustment. We have to do this because the cultural sector is regarded as an exemplar of public good, and it follows that we must adopt standards which are often in advance of the law. I want us to demonstrate that our national culture can truly embrace and value disabled people as artists, as employees, as audiences, as equals.
I think it's a really important, really critical question, the question of sustainability and what happens after. I think if you create a project and young people feel that they kind of just fall off the end of it, that can actually be really damaging. So you have to think about that from the beginning. And often we have had to have battles with funders to say, actually we won't start a project unless we know that there is some sort of real long-term aim to how that can be continued. So building that in, very often we've had to say to people, well, we're here to stay.
We are sitting here talking about kind of engaging children and young people, but I think the starting point needs to be led by young people, and how to ensure that, okay, it might be a question of funding, is Is there, are people subsidised? Can you pay for travel costs? Are you working with grassroots organisations that target specific groups? How is the call made out? What's the language that's being used in the open call? Does it say that it's for anyone? Is the language jargon? Where are we advertising these opportunities? Who are our partners? Are we making sure that young people and children are actually not just co-creating but designing the programs, given the power? What would happen if your organisation was run for a year by a 12-year-old or a 21-year-old?
Our question asked, should galleries display the artwork of any artist in spite of age? And all of you who voted said yes. And can I say thank you? This is really comforting to hear, is young people trying to make art in the world.
What I liked mostly about from this whole conference was the fact that we still obviously have a long way to go, and the structural problems would require more than just this room or us to change. It requires diversifying all the platforms, all these rooms, including people in the conversation that would otherwise never have access to these conversations.